Have you ever wondered what is truly exchanged when two souls meet in the quiet space of intimacy? It is not merely the body, nor a performance to be judged. What a man offers, often without knowing, is the very current of his life force, a current hungry not for flesh, but for something far deeper, to be truly seen, to be felt, to be received as whole, even in his fragmentation. But this offering comes disguised. It wears the mask of desire, of primal drive, of outward strength. Yet this is not skin meeting skin. It is one river flowing into another, a current of deep longing moving beneath the surface. For at his core, a man's truest desire is not the act itself. It is to be witnessed, to be recognized in his essence, beyond the armor he carries. Men who bow before a woman's form as if it were a shrine are not merely chasing a fleeting sensation. They are seeking the warmth of a sun they have never felt, a nourishment their lineage forgot to give them. It appears physical, yet it is a pilgrimage of the soul. It appears as want, yet it is an ancient emptiness wearing the costume of power. When two beings meet in this unshielded space, the theater of performance crumbles, and the tender fragility behind the iron wall is laid bare. And in this raw, unfiltered moment, the wisdom of the ancients reveals itself. The body becomes an oracle, speaking truths the mind cannot grasp. The shadow, the hidden self, becomes a mirror. But this reflection is only visible to the one with the courage to look past the mask and dive into the sharp, clear water of truth. The wise ones of old never saw this drive as mere instinct. They understood intimacy as a bridge between worlds, the world we see and the ocean of the unseen. As my own lineage teaches, every act of true union reveals more than it appears to show. To them, this energy is not born of the body. It is born in the quiet center of our being, the psyche. Every impulse, every movement has its roots buried deep in the unseen soil of our inner world. This union is an exchange of energies, of hidden rivers, of intentions both silent and spoken. And when a stream of water that is not meant for you enters your life, what should have been a nourishing rain becomes a slow draining of your inner well, physical, emotional, and spiritual. In this journey, you will begin to understand why so many men feel a vast emptiness after the waters recede, why great weariness settles in that is not of the body, but of the spirit. Because each time you give yourself without presence, without a true meeting of hearts, you are trading shimmering pieces of your soul for mere crumbs of validation. A woman's body can be a temple, this is true, but so is yours. And when two temples meet without awareness, without a guardian at the gate, what is born is a chaos of energies. You are not just being intimate, you are opening gateways. And not all gateways lead to gardens of peace. As we walk this path together, you will begin to see what has always been there, but no one ever taught you the language it speaks. When a man truly surrenders to this sacred flow, he does not just reveal his body, he unveils the hidden landscapes of his soul. The fear of being turned away, the silent insecurities he cloaks in strength, the heavy stillness filled with an unseen past. This level of intimacy is not about the physical act. It is about the feeling of being naked in your own heart. For it is in a single gaze, in the pause between one touch and the next, that the invisible child within him appears. The one who only ever wanted to be held, to be loved, without having to first prove his worth. And that vulnerability is more terrifying than any physical nakedness. How many men, in that moment of truth, crumble on the inside while their face remains a mask of stone? The fortress of the strong does not fall with loud explosions. It dissolves in the silent presence of another. A single touch can awaken the ancient echo of being left alone. A small gesture can reveal an inner wound he never learned to name. The wise have always taught that the soul is always speaking, and in intimacy, its voice becomes a clear bell. The body becomes the stage where the spirit performs its most secret H. This is why many men pull away when they feel too close. Because to face true intimacy is to face the mirror of your own heart, and not all are ready to meet the one who lives there. The collapse of the outer fortress of masculine strength does not begin with a grand crisis. It begins with a single touch of warmth that finds its way through a crack in the armor. And when that happens, something deep inside begins to stir. But that stirring is only the beginning of a long path. Most men were raised to believe that giving pleasure was a matter of technique, a performance to be perfected. Do it well, impress, prove that you are enough. But true connection, the kind that touches the soul's deep water, flows from a much deeper place. To share this energy can be a spiritual practice, a way to access that forgotten garden within yourself, the part you buried long ago under stones of duty and expectation. Because at his core, every man carries a gentle, flowing river, a part the world taught him was weakness and must be hidden. In my tradition, we call this the breath of the feminine moon that resides within the heart of the masculine sun. And herein lies the great paradox. When a man truly opens himself in this way, he is not just touching her body. He is touching that exiled part of himself. This sacred dance is not about control. It is about overwhelming presence. It is when the body becomes an oracle, an emotional mirror where he finally sees himself with no mask. And in that ritual of touch, something awakens, something no performance could ever fake. This is where desire ceases to be mere flesh and becomes a prayer of the soul. This ritual does not begin in the body. It begins in listening without words, in allowing that exiled softness to rise again. It is not about proving anything to anyone. It is about coming home to who you truly are beneath the fractured armor. And when that happens, pleasure becomes medicine. But for many men, that healing feels far too dangerous. Many say they want love, but deep in their inner streams, what they thirst for is approval. This hunger comes not only from a longing to connect with another, but from an ancient lack, a desperate need to finally, at long last, be chosen. It is as if in every meeting of souls, the invisible child within him is waiting for someone to finally say, "I see you. You are enough." And here, the sacred ground becomes a hidden trap. Because when the thirst to be loved is greater than the capacity to love the self, the man begins to dissolve. He erases his own shape. He bends his own river's course. He sacrifices the integrity of his soul for mere crumbs of acceptance. Have you seen this man? The one who gives everything, who is always a stable rock, always a gentle stream, and yet he remains unseen. The path is not wrong. It is that he is caught in an endless loop of outflow. An excess of giving is often just deep pain, wearing the mask of virtue. He is not loving from fullness. He is begging for warmth in the language of service. And here, a shadow begins to form. He unconsciously asks the other to save him, to be the well that will rescue him from his own inner drought. But that water can never come from the outside. It takes immense courage to look inward and ask, from what wellspring does this action flow? What am I trying to earn? Because sometimes, the effort to be the perfect partner is just the denied reflection of a spirit that feels it is not enough. And when the man understands this truth, he begins to dismantle the theater of his own performance. He starts to access his raw, true presence, the part of him that does not need to be perfect to be worthy of love. But to reach that silent, powerful place, he must first face his own shadow. And it is in that meeting that the journey changes completely. The ancient wisdom traditions contain one of the most starkly honest truths. What you do not bring into the light of your own awareness will appear to steer your life, and you will call it fate. And that is precisely what happens for so many men. They believe they are making conscious choices, but in truth, they are simply repeating the echoes of unhealed pain. The shadow. This is the term for the hidden, the wounded, the rejected parts of our own being. It takes the reins of a man's life without him ever knowing it. And so, every connection becomes a replaying of an old story, a circle that never finds its close. This is why intimacy can feel like walking through a field of hidden fires. Not because the other is toxic, but because the inner wounds are still open and raw. He approaches wearing the mask of a mountain, but inside, his foundations are trembling. He looks to the other for a cure to the vast, quiet emptiness he has never learned to heal within himself. In this inner dance, The body becomes either a fortress to hide in or a bridge to walk across. It all depends on how he meets his own emotional nakedness, as a threat or as an invitation to come home. The shadow is not the part you hate, it is the part you hide from yourself. That deep fear of being seen as weak, that silent panic of being turned away, that invisible thirst for approval, all of it lies there in the quiet, unseen depths, waiting for its moment to surface. And where does it surface? In the touch that awakens a memory, in the clear mirror of intimacy, in the repeated choices that seem like chance, but are echoes of a path already walked. Every man, at some point on his path, will project onto another that which he has not yet discovered within himself. He looks at a woman and, without knowing it, asks her to become a universe. Lover, mother, sanctuary, savior. But the challenge is not in the loving. It is in expecting another river to fill your own dry riverbed. That is not the flow of love. It is the shadow's projection of an ancient lack, a phantom thirst for a nourishment he never received. And that projection, that silent demand, almost always ends in the crumbling of hopes. Because when you place another being on a pedestal of light, you are no longer seeing them. You are seeing the reflection of your own wounded soul. That idealization becomes an emotional cage. At the first sign of human imperfection, the entire temple of illusion collapses. The man who once saw a goddess now feels a cold disdain. The river of desire becomes a stagnant pool of resentment, all because he tried to find on the outside a treasure that could only ever be awakened within his own sleeping power, his own denied softness, his deep and unwavering inner presence. It is in this desperate search to feel complete that many men lose their way. They mistake intensity for love, neediness for connection, another's presence for their own salvation. But no woman, no matter how vast her own ocean, can be the perfect mirror for a man who has not yet met himself. The mirror of the heart must first be found within, and to gaze upon that naked reflection requires a courage most men are not taught they have. And yet, that very courage is the key that unlocks the door to the next part of the path. Most men spend their lives waiting to be chosen. A word of praise, a look of acceptance, a gentle touch that whispers, "You are enough." But the truth, as clear and sharp as a mountain stream, is this, that validation never lasts, for it comes from without. And what comes from without will always, eventually, depart. True healing begins the moment a man realizes he no longer needs to beg for affection from the world's river, because the thirst to be chosen can only be quenched when he first chooses himself. Self-knowledge is the key, not as a theory from a book, but as a living practice. To look inward with a raw and open presence, to listen to the silence without needing words, to face the great, empty void within without running away. It is in that place, where the soul may feel it lies in ruins, that the true masculine awakening begins. Intimacy ceases to be a performance and becomes a mirror of truth. Desire, when it is born from this inner fullness, does not beg, it invites. It dances lightly. It is an expression of the spirit's freedom. That is the moment when sexuality transforms into ritual, no longer an escape from the self, but a returning to it. A space where sacred pleasure is born not from emptiness, but from wholeness, where the shadow becomes an oracle and silence becomes profound wisdom. But to reach that sacred ground, a man must pass through the narrow gate of his own ego and release, one by one, the heavy masks of false strength. And on that pilgrimage, he finds something the world tried to teach him to bury: his own luminous, exposed humanity. Not every soul deserves access to your body, and even fewer deserve access to your energy's sacred wellspring. This union, when unconscious, becomes an open gateway through which your very life force can be drained away without you even sensing the flow. There are souls, wounded by their own journeys, adrift in the storms of drama, disconnected from their own center, who carry within them a great void. And when you merge your own river with that void, it can consume the most sacred parts of you. Your clarity of mind, your spiritual strength, your sense of direction. You leave the encounter feeling more empty than when you arrived. And still, the mind may call it pleasure, the path she has walked with other men, her own unseen energetic addictions, the silent vows she maintains in her own heart. All of that is imprinted upon her energy field, and the intimate act is the doorway through which those energies enter your own life. Without asking your permission, you are not just meeting her body, you are meeting her entire energetic history, her traumas, her unresolved phantoms. And if your own inner gaze is not awake, that merging becomes a contamination. You begin to feel a strange fatigue, a fog of confusion, and you do not understand its source. This kind of intimacy is an invisible exchange, but its effects are deeply felt. It means nothing to have a strong body, a confident facade, or wise words upon your lips, if in the quiet practice of your life, you keep opening the gates of your temple to women who live in chaos. This requires energetic discernment. It demands a rooted presence and a new pattern of conscious choice. Because as long as you keep giving yourself to anyone simply to quiet your own inner emptiness, your soul will remain a field of ruins. And one day, it may not find its way back from where it was given away. Now, answer with the stillness of your own heart. How many times have you given of yourself, thinking it was only desire, only to leave that space more lost than when you entered? How many times did you confuse a fleeting pleasure with a true connection and give the river of your energy to someone who did not even know how to tend to her own? The answer may carry a sting, but in that sting lies your freedom. Because from this moment forward, you can no longer say that you did not know. You now understand that this sacred dance is not a game. It is a ritual, that the body is an oracle, and that every choice of intimacy you make either rebuilds you from within or buries you deeper in your own abyss. Now, the path is yours to choose. Will you continue to offer your whole being to someone who only wants a fleeting part of you? Or will you finally begin to ask for a level of consciousness that is worthy of your own soul? If this journey has stirred something within you, I invite you to share in the space below the echo that spoke to your own heart. And if this message found its way to you, share it with the men in your life who are still walking in their sleep. I invite you to subscribe, because what we are uncovering here is not simply about intimacy. It is about who you are in the great silence, when no one is watching. It is not about performance. It is about presence.